because the deadline has passed. So yeah, stream should be live. Hey everyone, welcome to the stream.
Hello everyone.
And let me just get these last minute solves in. There, after Biggie's solve that he just submitted, there has been 4 solves in, so let me put those in.
Yeah, Madmaster submitted with 17 seconds to go.
Nice. It's also fun that it's also nice that the website has a countdown that updates real time. Panic did a great job with the website.
Honestly, this website is incredible for this purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's awesome.
But yeah, that should be everything set up then, I think. At least I hope the files came over. But yeah, I'll close the current standings that I had open for the moment. And yeah, we should be good to go. So, hey everyone, welcome to the Opus Magnum Tournament results stream week 5. This is our production week, and since it's production, it's kind of an increase in difficulty again compared to last week. Though, compared to last year, I'd say this puzzle is easier to just solve comparatively. You have a lot more, there's less necessary glyphs, so it's a bit more easier to solve. But yeah, this puzzle, you have to take this, what do I call it? Quintessential core? Quintessential core reagent, and you have to strip the outside, turn it into quintessence, and do something with the salt. You have to do something with the salt. Either you use the Burlow wheel to make it into quintessence, or you can use just the duplication glyphs and duplicate from the input itself, or you could have just left the salt there.
Cram it in a corner.
Yeah.
Never happened.
There's 24 salt. That is actually plenty of space to keep 24 salt is like salt to is yeah, there's plenty of space to put in 24 salt, and some solves use it. The intention was to not make salt waste the way to solve the puzzle, but more of just making an option.
Yeah, that's why there are 12 outputs of each type instead of 6, so that there's a lot more salt waste if you choose to go that route.
I increased the salt waste, but I increased the amount of salt waste, but also kept it to a certain amount so that you don't have to, so that it's somewhat viable, but it probably won't be obvious when you first look at it, or it probably won't be as viable for certain metrics. But yeah, so now that we've introduced the puzzle, I guess we can start. We'll be starting with cycles first. A lot of these solves I haven't seen yet. Let me find the first. The first cycle solve that's not actually an instruction solve. First off, we have a new participant, Nandam Now, in 37th place. Welcome to the tournament. You came in on a very difficult week. At
Must
404
be
cycles. Maybe.
I like the title. It's very straightforward and like the feelings about this puzzle.
This is hard. I am new. Yes, welcome. It looks pretty dense though.
Yeah, so it is using 2 inputs to make 5 outputs, and both outputs are in the small chamber on the top left, so it has the option to balance them in groups of 5 each. I don't know if it's actually doing that. I can't count the instructions and look at the loop, but for cycles, it's relatively important to keep 12 outputs of each type as your final end goal. If you're finishing when you have 12 of one type and 18 of the other, then there's a lot of inefficiency.
Yeah, so since the outputs cap out and they start counting once you reach 12. You need to put in outputs within the different quintessence outputs evenly. That's another challenge of this puzzle. But yeah, congratulations to solving the puzzle, by the way, since just solving production is pretty difficult, even though I tried to make this production puzzle easier. Somewhat. There have been easier
Shadow Cluster
versions.
said that the final iteration before this one was something that looked a lot easier than what ended up happening. You made it hard at the end.
Very. It was a lot easier. I can show y'all later, like, what the original puzzle is, or I can just explain it. It's basically quintessence in 2 salts and elbow format as the input, and only 1 quintessence output at 18 outputs.
Oh, wow. That's so much
Ooh,
easier.
interesting.
Yeah, but
The 7 atom input was a big pain because of how big it is. Making the input smaller already is a huge load off.
yeah, but I figured that made it too easy for instructions because the salt was spaced out perfectly. You just output the quintessence, you put it in the quintessence glyph, and yeah, it made instructions too easy. That's the main reason I didn't go for it and try to do something new. But yeah. Next up then, we have in 36th place, Glass Lady, with 344 cycles. So this is a more straightforward solve, with the D-bond pattern. Opinion in placing equilibrium. It works when it's already cramped, and there's like just a few spare spots left.
I support EQ glyphs to fill up like a couple of empty hexes.
Like, if it's, for example, if you try to fill up all the empty X's in, say, the right chamber in this solve, however, that isn't as good. But if that's just a few spots, then yeah. Not on this solve. Unless you're making word art. Yeah, I don't think this one does any, yeah, this one does not do any balancing whatsoever. With the
I
quintessence
do like that
outputs.
the title calls out the use of waste as an option. Like, waste is for chumps.
Yeah, waste is an option.
Yeah, this one has a 2-to-3 ratio on the 2 quintessence outputs.
Yeah, the one that is in the main chamber only gets filled when it pulls an input, but to pull 12 inputs, you'll have already created 18 of the other quintessence.
Yeah. Sticking Burlo. Yeah, you can stick Burlo in its own chamber. That's pretty helpful, actually. Since it gets Burlo
It
out of the way.
fits with a couple of nice options. Not too many, though. Like, the Burlo chamber gets really crowded by the existence of Burlo.
Yeah, most options go like either putting 2 quintessence glyphs, 1 in each of the chambers, or putting a Burlo in one of them and a quintessence in the other.
Or just all of the salt in both of the chambers, if you're that
just
kind of person.
all of the salt in both of the chambers, because, surprise, there's, how many hexes are in the 2 chambers combined?
13 in each chamber, and you need to store 24 salt. So that's a little more than enough. But of course, arm bases take some space.
Yeah. That's 4 arms. You can probably figure out how this fit. But yeah. Next up, we have in 35th place, also still a cycle solve, 237 cycles, B. Smith. So yeah, this is the duplication method I talked about, where you don't have to use a Burlo.
Yep, Burlo-less and wasteless is completely possible. You just buddy duplicate, but you have to be sure that on one input the buddies are fire and earth.
Does it
on
do
the
a
other
triple pivot? Yeah, it does a triple pivot first.
Yeah, make sure that it gets the right balance of buddies.
I do wonder if, like, output, like, conduit 1 is necessary at all. Oh wait, it does, it does output balancing, yeah, it does output balancing.
Oh, balancing, that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, the number of instructions is higher than it would be if you were just processing two inputs. You're getting balancing done.
I wonder if it's balancing by... there's two methods of balancing that I've seen. One of them is like balancing so that you can make the solve loop. Or you can balance by just dumping everything at the end and make it like
Yeah,
12T.
if you're at like 12 in one and only 11 or 10 in the other, quick divert all contestants to the one that's empty. 6T it. Or 12T or 24T or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I guess this counts as 12T because it's technically a set of outputs, even though they're both identical. T is hard to calculate in this puzzle, especially since like you can do imbalances on two of the outputs. But you can also balance them. You get to choose if you want to balance them or not, and it isn't usually balanced in instruction solves. But yeah, next up in 34th place then, we have at 220 cycles, 42 Genus 42. So, faster debonding.
Yeah, since the input has 6 bonds in it, you have to, like, your throughput is almost limited by how quickly you can debond it. There's also conduit throughput, and depending on which processes you use in other chambers, there's other things that might limit throughput, but breaking all of the bonds is a big one. As soon as you can break all the bonds, you've kind of set your speed.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's not a flare input that I decided to use this for quick debonding. Because flare inputs are pretty limited in how you can debond them. At least, I think that's the case. It probably is.
Well, because this shape you can parallelize a lot easier, but also flare would have been way nicer for instructions.
Yeah, I have some solves in instructions where it's like, you know what? I don't like this input shape. I'm turning it into a flare.
Just make a new puzzle. Feel good about yourself.
No, they like make
That sounds familiar.
They spend a few instructions to just turn it into a flare first. With bonds and debonds. Yeah, Zorflax recognizes that technique.
Yeah, I figured that as a possibility for one of my instructions ideas, but it was not the one that I went with.
Yeah. Also, the main thing with cycle solves in production is you have to try to get throughput as high as possible, which, by the way, throughput is the inverted of the metric that we're using for week 6, so... Or rather, the metric for week 6 is inverted throughput, so you have to minimize that, but you maximize throughput here.
Yeah, the question is basically how many cycles between grabbing a new input, where there's a different amount of output speed from that depending on whether you're efficient in using all the material or just dumping salt. But
yeah,
you want to get the number of cycles between grabbing inputs really low and then try to be as efficient as you can with what you've grabbed.
Okay, next up we have in 33rd place at 191 cycles to layer. Ooh. Oh, it's debonding. It's not paralyzing that debonds, unfortunately. So yeah, we could start paying attention to the cycle loops. This one's a 16 cycle loop? No, 15 cycle loop, it seems.
I like that it's doing buddy duplication, but still then sending something to a Brillo chamber.
Oh, wait.
Because sometimes there's salts, but not every input. Every other input uses salts.
Huh. Oh, it's not doing the triple pivot in the beginning. Yeah, it's... Huh. I'll be honest, I haven't seen this salt before, so... I didn't know that someone did this.
Okay, Tular says Burlow first and then buddy duplicate to avoid overloading the conduits.
Ah, okay, so it's conduit limited. Oh, by the way,
I wonder if anyone else called it Buddy Duplicate, or if that was just my name that is already stuck. But it definitely is the name I've been using.
It probably is your name that's stuck. And kind of what happens, especially like with week 3, somebody called a method, and like the whole stream was just method. But yeah, so conduits, with conduits, the fastest you can pass atoms through is 1 every 3 cycles, but you can pass 2 atoms both ways simultaneously, and that's called conduit phasing, which sometimes comes in pretty handy when it comes to cycle solving.
Does it come in handy in instruction solving as well sometimes? I think it does.
It comes in handy in production in general. Maybe less so cost, because cost is usually trying to limit it to 1 chamber as much as possible. Yeah.
Well, it conduit phasing helps with a lot of different things, because it instead of like if you tried to do the same thing but without conduit phasing, you would have to set one molecule aside and let the one through, and then like make space for it, and then like take the first one and then put it through.
Yeah.
Like you would need more like storage space, which you don't have a lot of because cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few cases where people have talked about conduit phasing in Discord this week. So I guess that's it. If you were in Discord and paying attention, you might have known about this thing. But someone in chat talks about how I missed it. It would have helped me if I'd known.
Yeah. Join the Discord. It's great. The community is great. But yeah, next up then, we have in 32nd place, also at 191 cycles. I did not expect a primary tie already. At 470 gold, Topper Mouse. Okay, buddy duplication only this time. And it's doing a... I think it's doing a triple pivot first? Yeah, it's doing a triple pivot first. Though, I don't think ARM 3 is all... No, ARM 3 is not necessary.
Oh, because ARM 1 could just do that set of pivots?
Yeah.
This is cool that it has quintessence created in each chamber, and it's doing balancing by sending the actual inputs, or the actual atoms to both chambers balanced.
So yeah, sometimes it pulls it into output conduit 1, sometimes it pulls it into conduit 2. Yeah. Okay, next up we have in 31st place at 186 cycles, Catspin. 4 at a time. I see the top one is for the salts, I think, and the bottom one is for the ones that were already colored.
She says that she cut 4 cycles at a time and not necessarily doing something with 4 any of the parts at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that main chamber output is right there in the corner. It looks very close. I wonder if this one does any output balancing.
.373 instructions doesn't look like quite enough instructions to be processing 4 inputs, so I don't think it's doing balancing.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, something grabbed off of 1.
Oh, it's doing that. Is it? Yeah, it's doing balancing.
Yeah, ARM 2 grabbed off of 1, so it's balancing. That's good.
Alrighty, next up we have in 30th place at 172 cycles, Britboy. Keep things simple. Burlow in main chamber. That's one way to do it.
That really only works if you have unification in both side chambers. Maybe you could cram it all together, but really, the amount of space in this big cabinet, it feels spacious until you try to work with it, and you're like, I want there to be more space. At least you hear me.
Yeah. Oh. It's 12T.
Yep.
I guess that's
Yeah,
what happens when I put in instructions as a tertiary.
There's going to be quite a few solves, I assume, that will only be able to watch from 0 to 12 outputs and nothing after.
Yeah. Sometimes it works out that you don't need extra instructions, but I probably should have made it so that there is no tertiary. I didn't notice that that was the case last year, actually.
I said
Yeah,
one instruction when I submitted.
Yeah, the main thing with duping everything and then putting all the elemental atoms through conduits is that your conduit limited in your throughput. So yeah, there are. Well, we'll see other methods that get around that problem. But yeah, an interesting detail about this puzzle.
Oh yeah, this looks very conduit limited. But yeah, next up we have in 29th place at also 172 cycles, but 530 gold, Guilty Bystander.
Nice. Some secondaries and costs that are mattering.
Their solution name is the Giraffe Unicode character. 2 giraffes with conjoined tail Unicode character with a man standing on them, but it's not showing up on screen, unfortunately.
This one is absolutely conduit limited. It's 15. Sure, okay, also the cool thing that you said, but like, I'm looking at conduit too, and it's perfect. It's perfectly saturated. There's a 15 cycle loop that fills conduit 2 at maximum speed.
Oh boy. Also, looks like it has an odd one out instructions at the end that just throws the waste away, but keeps waste on the board. Also, that is a really efficient way of handing atoms through the Burlow chamber.
Yes, that 6 cycle loop on 2 pistons can operate at conduit speed and move from one side to the other.
Except you can
that
probably
I think the goal is if you're pulling one atom every 3 cycles, then you are using that chamber well.
Except sometimes it's passing things through that are already colored.
Yeah, because the things going into conduit 2 are all around the input instead of just the salts. If you were to do this with just the salts going into the Burlow chamber, that would be the most efficient option.
Yeah, I wonder if this solve could have made more use of conduit 1.
Yeah, probably could have. Space is, again, limited though, so it makes things difficult.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
Oof. Oof with the tertiary. But yeah, next up we have in 29th, would be 29th place, at 144 cycles, a host solve by RPO. Not exactly a host solve, but like a non-scoring solve.
144, that's a decent drop given that we came from a tie.
Yeah. Smorgasbord cacophony.
Wow, look at all the duplication happening. And, oh my gosh.
Oh.
Whoa.
I am very impressed at how much is crammed in and active.
Yeah. Okay, so how often is this pulling an input? It doesn't look like it's doing the same thing every single cycle, but
there are 2 different directions input get pulled.
Yeah.
One is from... Oh, but they don't even go in the same grab point. Like, once it grabbed on the quintessence, and then once it grabbed on the air. Or maybe I just missaw.
No,
yeah,
you miss
cacophony is the word.
It moves out of the way and then like grab the air. It grabs the air each time.
Yeah, so it's basically grabbing it in 2 different places, and the number of cycles between is
4, 8, 12, 16, 20,
23.
Yeah, 23. But no, yeah. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28, 27.
Yeah, I counted the wrong number of notches.
Yeah. By the way, if you didn't know, the notches are 4 instructions each.
Yeah, there are some nice notches at the very top of the instruction tray that'll help you count by 4s without needing to count.
Yeah, those ones.
Yeah, this is more expensive than mine. I wasn't sure if you would see any that are more expensive than mine, but 870 is quite pricey.
Yeah. What's the highest? I wonder what's the highest cost. What if there should be a production metric in the future where you maximize cost instead?
Bambi
put
did
track
that
under my
for
piston.
artificial. Bambi did that for artificial ore as a showcase.
Oh yeah.
True, because the area and cycles were the only things that mattered, and gold was inconsequential, so just maximize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, put track under all of your pistons, even if they're on the tile that can't move.
Alrighty, next up, we have in 28th place at 136 cycles, Matter Monkey. That's another drop. So, one of them is in the main chamber, and the salt goes up to the side.
This is the first main chamber unification I think we've had in this puzzle.
It is? Huh.
Yeah.
Unless, I think this is true.
Also, one thing with the input order, it used to be that the salts were at the very end, but I noticed, that's not good for conditionals. So I made the salts connected to the quintessence, so you can see that in action here. So the cardinal inputs are easy to remove, and the salts are like take an extra debond. Or a different kind of debond actually, not actually an extra debond. But yeah, that was one of the changes I made to the puzzle as well. Before like revealing it.
Yeah, this set of bonds is interesting, and it's a good balance between annoying and usable.
I tried, I wanted this ratio, but like I tried to get it like, make it still useful, somewhat usable, I guess.
Also, chat calling out how the Burlow chamber has pistons that never piston.
I wonder if that matters. No, it does not, fortunately. But yeah, ARM 9 and 10 are pistons that they don't need to be. Quintessence is passed through there.
Gotta duplicate your quintessence using the salt on the Burlow wheel. That's how it becomes pure quintessence.
I wonder if that's something you can do with for instructions. Yeah. How many cycles per loop is this? 12. 12 cycles per loop. Yeah, next up we have, in 27th place at 133 cycles, Chickens in the Attic. Oh, there's the flare.
It's really convenient, because you can just yoink things off of it.
Yeah.
And this is another 12 cycle loop as well.
Ooh. What's the limit for a flare input? Like
Probably 11 cycles.
11 cycles?
But in this case, instead of rotating the center away, you're pulling it into the footprint, so it has a 12 cycle loop.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think the flare method would be this fast, to be honest. I'm surprised.
We are in... Oh yeah, there's less people this week. We are in 27th place already.
It does appear that this one is making... no, wait, ARM 10 is pulling some of the quintessence back into the other chamber, and ARM 11 is delivering it. So there is some balancing going on. That's pretty cool.
I wonder if it does it via conduit phasing. It does. Nice.
I like this solve.
Mm-hmm. It's really clean.
It is.
480 gold is probably really cheap as well. So, one of the other metrics I considered was cost. Because of the salt waste.
Yeah.
And
I have a displeasure upon hearing this.
duplication costs 20. You have 15 extra for like whatever glyphs you want to use instead, and still be below, be below wasteless. So yeah, that was one of the metrics I considered, but like, these other two are more fun.
massive bonded salt structures filling up all of the corners you can get away with.
Yeah. Alright, next up though, we have in 26th place at 1 cycle faster, Madmaster.
Oof.
Madmaster was the one calling out, is this unbalanced outputs? But no.
Oh, I see some balancing.
I'm guessing the 900 plus instructions means balancing.
Yeah, it's probably 12T. Yeah, it's 12T.
Yeah, I also like, seeing ARM 14 send the quintessence back through the other chamber. It's good that you gave us pairwise conduits so that we could send anything to any other chamber in one swap.
Oh yeah. That wasn't, so even though the chamber, like, layout is almost identical to last week, the conduits aren't. I added more, like, even though the conduits are smaller, but I added more communication between the conduits.
You once gave us conduits that were larger than 1 atom?
No, I mean compared to last year.
Right, okay. Because I think the biggest issue with there being 6 bonds to break is that there's literally nothing you can do with 2 things bonded together. You have to break all those bonds to use quintessence, the outputs, glyphs, the conduits.
Yeah, so basically this is a debonding puzzle and a quintessence puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. The disassembly puzzle just happens to be in the chamber.
Yeah. Next up, we have in 25th place at another, dropping cycles. 114 cycles, Gecko.
Oh, wow. I imagine Gecko's thinking they were safe until this reveal.
I think though it does make sense that the drops happen because a difference in a 12 cycle loop and an 11 cycle loop is quite a bit.
True, yeah. I took off a dozen at a time, basically, from shortening the loop.
If you shorten the loop, the cycles just decreases a lot. Is Goodbye Galaxy next? I'm not sure. I'll have to check. So yeah, with how production works in general, actually, it's just gonna be power-ups like here and there. We reach 11 cycle loops and 10 cycle loops and 9 cycle loops and etc. But yeah, about this solve though, it's got both of the outputs in the main chamber.
A lot of disparate tracks here.
Yeah. Does ARM 8 ever move? Oh, it does. Swap places with ARM 16 because ARM 16 needs to do some balancing.
This is cool that it also seems to be a looping solve that balances.
Just make sure you put in the quintessence that comes out like into every other output. The quintessence that comes from the salts, that is. Yeah,
basically, it would be really cool to have numbers on each of the output glyphs showing how many times they have consumed. Yeah, so that we could just very plainly see the current balancing and the latency balancing. Like, latency is also interesting with balancing.
I wish whatever was done here was... No, not this one. I wish whatever was done here was kept for the actual game. This was nice.
Yeah, just having N of 6. We might be able to mod that in if it's already supported.
Yeah. Mod idea.
Fitsugu.
Finally, this setup is getting close to Fitsugu.
But yeah. Alrighty, next up we have at 24th, in 24th place, at 114 cycles as well, but 570 gold. Hello, Jasper. So Goodbye Galaxy, you're safe for now.
Alright, this is another 11 loop with 5 debonders in the main chamber. That's a big number of debonders. That's someone who's trying to debond everything.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the extra cycles is spent on actually just having parts of the input still overlap with the actual input though.
Yeah, I think it's because the only arm that's able to grab the input is arm 1, and it doesn't get back until 11 cycles have gone by. I don't think you could make it a track loop with arm 8, there's just not space.
Yeah.
Space makes it hard to go fast.
Could you use arm 5 to do some of the pivots that arm 1 is doing, though?
Maybe.
That makes some sense.
Yeah, arm 5 is 4 instructions per loop. That probably could have been done, though. Yeah. I wonder how many cycles that would change.
Yeah, I would have to look for the other source of forced 11-etude.
Looks like arm 4 has a lot of instructions. No, arm 4 has balancing.
It's a very cool solve. As they said in chat, like, cycles balances while looping.
Yeah. 5
it's a good debonding method.
Without conditionals. Auto and out makes a shorter loop difficult, yeah. But yeah, next up we have in 23rd place, at 113 cycles, Goodbye Galaxy. 113% pure ethanol. That is a very empty top left chamber.
Totally gotta steal that ethanol name.
So it's pulling the input 2 ways, actually.
Yeah, it's 2-station buddy duplication to avoid needing a triple pivot. Also the balancing at the end, very cool.
There's a lot of conduit phasing on arm 9 that's really cool.
Yeah. Scientist is like, yeah, just continue going down a cycle at a time. I like how it's like pulling the input, like, it basically has 2 pipelines for the inputs, for the debonding. That's 24 cycle loop for 2 inputs, that's, so yeah, basically 12 cycle loop. Which, yeah, we've been looking at 11 cycle loops, but this is 12 cycles loop.
It just is a lot more parallelized because it's grabbing 2 inputs quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Goodbye Galaxy. I'm not expecting to have a very good week this week.
Oh, dude.
I thought I was going to have a good cycles, and now I think I'm going to have a good week in general.
all those quintessence slamming in right at the end.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I also slammed a bunch of quintessence at the end. That's just a good look.
Also, not performing well in instructions is not performing well in production is 1 minute. I probably would have gotten top 10 if I got my average score in production week last year for each metric. Production is
that's right. Yeah, we were talking about your uncharacteristically bad week in production last year. You got like 2 points for one of the metrics because you solved it last minute, and it's a hard
puzzle. Solve. Yeah, and the puzzle last week was like very difficult. Not last week, last year. Last week puzzle was also difficult, but yeah. Puzzle last year was
question,
difficult.
Best. Did Starfix submit?
No, sadly.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I did what he would have done.
You got a chance to win now, Biggie.
Yeah. Anyways, next up we have in 22nd place at 108 108 cycles, Extendium. Tiny drop. Oh, that is cramped.
Ah, yes. Fill the chamber. Use the space.
Fill it with equilibrium, apparently. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 equilibrium glyphs. But yeah, 4's not a lot though.
We got buddy duplication with a triple pivot. It's allowing no burlow, so it's a lot easier space. Oh, this is non-balancing. Marconda points out and is correct.
Huh.
This is a fast 9 loop, but there's no balancing, so it has to wait until it's actually processed 12 inputs.
I
Oh,
thought
boy.
a 9 loop would be a lower cycle count. So yeah, that explains why it's 108 and not like 100 or 90 something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you have no balancing, your output is about 12x your loop count, and if you have balancing, it's closer to 10x.
If you're not balancing, you're basically making 30 outputs instead.
Although one of them can have really high latency, because you don't need to have low latency on the one that gets filled 18 times.
Uh-huh. Yeah, true. The one that's filled 18 times is very low latency, since it's the center quintessence that's already, just there. Yeah, output balancing is the thing.
Another 5 debonders in the main chamber solve.
I really wish that the output counter was a thing under each output. Though, I'm curious where it actually would be placed in the case of a larger output. Like, for example, where would you place that counter on Curious Lipstick?
Whatever the rotation origin is when you place the puzzle, or when you grab it in off the tray.
Some custom puzzles have the rotation origin not on the actual output, though.
That's a good point, because you can build it without any atom in the center.
Yeah. I mean, the in-game puzzle editor doesn't let you do that, but if you use external editors, yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Next up, we have, in 21st place, also at 108 cycles, but 660 gold, Tweedledee. I make the these. You did indeed.
This looks like a 10 loop. Although, no. I don't know if it's a 10 loop. I have questions.
Yeah.
Looks like a 10 loop.
It's 60, and I was looking at one of the arms that has a thing for 10 cycles and then a loop, but it did something different on the first time.
This,
Two layer. Not so much disassembling the input as dismembering it.
I can't tell how. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Arm 8. Arm 8 is the one that's grabbing the input. That's one of the most like 10. 10 cycle loop.
Cool. It is 10.
Wait, no, sometimes it's 11.
It's 10-ish.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, sometimes it's 11. Most of the time it's 10.
All that crammed out at the end. Very cool.
That's one way to do balancing. Yeah, next up we have in 20th place at 105 cycles, Buttermilk Donut. Tiny bubbles in my pipeline. I wonder what that means.
Probably like one cycle space because of having to pass things backwards.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a lot of bubbles.
I like Arm 3, by the way. It does some twists, it does some pushes and pulls, and then it ends up dropping an output exactly as it's about to receive the next input.
Seeing close calls like that is nice.
This has really symmetrical function in the quintessence chambers. They're doing the same thing at the same time.
Oh wow.
I love the aesthetics of this solve.
Yeah, very symmetrical. It's probably as symmetrical as it gets, to be honest. Alright, next up in 19th place, we have, with 575 gold instead, not great,
Cool.
Cycles tie.
Which is the name
I
of the
think if
spell.
you use a Burlow, you just don't get to place as much expensive things on those 7 tiles.
Yeah,
So Burlow solves are actually cheaper than non-Burlow solves using the same space.
Burlow solve. Yeah, since duplication glyphs are expensive, and using 2 is optimal. You know what? Wait, but that costs 40 and the Burlow costs 30.
Yeah, but you get to put pistons on all the tiles that you put a Burlow on instead. Like people who would put unification in 2 chambers are putting pistons in those chambers. If you have just one Burlow, then you're not going to be using a bunch of arms in that chamber.
Yeah.
It looks like arm 3 here sets the loop to 10, by the way. I wonder if that's unavoidable.
Usually it's the input arm that's... Oh, wait, arm 3...
Just because it's the one without any spare cycles idling.
Yeah. I don't know. Arm 3 looks pretty busy and doing mostly things that it has to do. Like, all the other more empty arms are pretty far away from it. Arms 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty busy.
The problem is, I think arm 3 is the only one that I can see that can put the quintessence in conduit 1.
Yeah.
But then it also has that job to put the water on the unification
The
glyph.
only other one that can do it is arm 5, if that were a piston arm, actually. Maybe arm 5 could do it.
It would be a
then
10
it
loop.
might stop the same problem.
Maybe you could trade off. One does a 6 and a 10, the other does a 10 and a 6.
Don't plan on tinkering though, because it's pretty difficult to do so.
But yeah, don't tinker a balance solve. There's so many different instructions.
But yeah, next up we have, in 18th place at 102 cycles, Velvet King. Buddy duplication. Arm 2's only job is to do the triple pivot, huh?
This is a 9 cycle loop. Is it not balanced?
It's balanced.
No, could be.
It is balanced. I'm just curious how it is. Oh no, if it wasn't balanced, it wouldn't be close to 100. Okay. This is just a 9 cycle balanced loop that it's just how fast things are now.
Yeah. We skipped the last cycles drop. We're just in 9 cycle loop territory now.
So I'm wondering, this one has 3 conduit passes per tape loop. Is that the limit? Because conduit on the right of the main chamber, conduit 1, does have 3 atoms passing through it.
Can't quite tell. Also, with all the arms overlapping over the conduit, it's hard to actually see the number.
Yeah, it's the top right one for the main chamber.
Yeah, next up then, we have, at 101 cycles in 17th place, Cuckoo 52. 101 Dalmatians, apparently. According to the solution name.
That was a good movie. Oh, I think someone else used this as well, but instead of the 2 pistons doing the dance, one of the arms can just be a regular arm.
Oh, nice! It lives.
It's the same speed.
I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any secondary ties. So.
Well, that's good because I used 2 pistons to do what that is doing, and I feel silly now that I see that it can be cheaper.
So it's doing input suppression to do output balancing. That's interesting. Wait, no, it's just doing input suppression in general.
It's
yeah, it needs to move the salt, but it can't get it from the bottom up to the top without setting the loop. So it's doing it 1 loop later.
Hey, there are extra instructions to reset it.
Yeah.
I could have done that to mine, but I was afraid of cycles and cost ties.
That's kind of difficult in production, to be honest, but it does happen. There has been like triple metrics sometimes that are non-identical solves, so better safe than sorry.
Yeah,
I like how ARM 3 and 9 are.
Oh,
I
yeah,
programmed reset instructions for mine, and I was going to take them out, but I forgot to take them out. So
You
if I
have
lose on
reset
instructions, I'm going to be annoyed.
wait, you have reset instructions on your...
No. Sorry, not actual reset instructions.
Oh,
I mean
okay.
like instructions that I use to reset the machine. I would not make that mistake, Biff. I am not that absent-minded.
Alright, next up we have Cycles Drop, 94 cycles, and 16th place, 100k. I assume this is 8 cycle loop territory?
That is not a drop I want to hear. Keep with the 1 cycle shaves.
Oh, this is a 9 cycle loop.
Oh, this is still 9 cycles.
Whoa.
How does it manage to be that fast?
Latency must be really good.
What's the distance from... No, distance from...
Yeah, look how quickly on one
Oh.
inputs a quintessence. Is that the last one that gets outputted?
The ARM 15.
Yeah, it's just 3-step debonding and then it's out.
Oh, that's really cool.
Cool. Theoretically, you can do it in 2.
Yeah, you can.
I think, maybe?
It is 2, actually. I was looking at the debonding happening
Oh,
next
yeah.
to it.
Oh yeah, it's debond, out. There's an out cycle.
Fantastic latency. Yeah.
And also 15 and 17... Not 17, there's no ARM 17. 15 and 7 are also like doing huge rotations for a production chamber. And 8.
You gotta cover all that ground. Yeah, it's interesting that both of the outputs are in the main chamber, so any quintessence formed by the side chamber has to be passed into the machine while it's running, and it still manages to fit it all.
Yeah, I'm amazed it solves that problem like so easily. And that wasn't a bigger problem for this layout.
Yeah, I guess only 2 salts need to go through the conduit every input port though. Since quintessence in the main chamber, there's a quintessence clip in the main chamber.
Yeah, with only salt passing through a conduit, you can get down to a 6-cycle loop before you're conduit limited.
Alrighty, next up we have in 15th place at 540 gold, Rolamni.
Oh, he'd said bye all his ambitions. Oh, this is his first solve that's not in the top 10. That's unfortunate.
Oof.
Nah, wasn't it Pentapig that had the perfect top 10 track record?
They both did for this tournament so
Yeah.
far.
Oh, I thought it was only Pentapig. Oh,
Tough tea.
it is now. That's a lot of track.
It's
And
actually
not
really
long
cost optimized for its cycle count, because there's no pistons except for 16.
Yeah. And 6.
Oh, I didn't even see 6. Nice. So this is an only 3 debonders, and I wonder if that's part of the missed potential, because it has to do a loop that gets all of the atoms over those debonders.
I do know Rolamni said that he was also sick this week though.
True. Yeah. Give him a break.
He was.
Yeah.
Oh, the 9 loop is set by the conduit because of the way that it's passing 3 atoms out from each input. I missed that.
Ah, okay.
Because, yeah, there's 6 atoms to go through the conduits before it can get to the other chambers. So 2 conduits, 3 cycles each, 6 atoms total is a 9-cycle loop.
For Rolamni though, there is week 6 coming up, which is throughput. which Rolowny hasn't not gotten first place yet.
Yeah, the guy's good at cost optimizing the throughput solve.
Mhm. Yeah, next up we have, in 14th place, 93 cycles, 715 gold, Bambi.
We haven't seen anyone use salt waste yet in cycles. That's interesting.
I wonder how
I just didn't
viable
think
it
there was
even
enough
is.
room for salt waste to be much of a thing for cycles, at least.
Yeah,
At least
exactly.
2 of my best cycle solves at some point had salt waste.
Like, not a lot though, right?
No, full 24 salt waste.
What?
Heh? No, but like, you
That
can turn the salt into
sounds like a
outputs.
terrible idea, Biggie. Why would you do that to yourself?
If you can get the salt through 2 different conduits and do everything else in the main chamber, there's not a clean way for you to then turn it into quintessence.
You do a
At the
very
speed
low.
I was going.
You do a very low cycle loop in.
Yeah, no, it has to be. It's only really applicable at a really fast loop.
You do a very low cycle loop, have quintessence in the main chamber, throw salt everywhere else in the 2 side chambers.
So 2 different best solves for me for some point had salt waste. Anyway, sorry to take away from Bambi's solve by talking about stuff. Because this one is a 12T with balancing.
There's a really cool piston loop on the bottom corner.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know. It seems like that's a really powerful tactic for these cycles optimized production chamber solves. If you can get a piston loop like that, they can be very area efficient way to do things fast.
Pistons are powerful, track loops are powerful, piston track loops are very powerful.
A little too powerful. Zach, please nerf.
They are expensive though. That one right there is 240 plus 260 gold.
No, 180 plus 20.
180.
200. No, 160. 180. I don't know. I was saying pistons are 45 because I remember
180. I am
but it's
bad at
180.
math. How did I
A
get...
piston on the track is 45, so that's 180.
Okay, yeah. I'm bad at math. How did I calculate that number? Alright, next up in 13th place, we have 93 cycles, 705 gold, Fiesta 618. So I guess...
We have 10 gold save.
I guess the fact that pistons are expensive matters.
Whoa! What was the instruction count on Bambi's?
Bambi's?
It was in the 800s as well.
800s, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Damn, that's tight.
Also, Fiesta giving a recent change delta in the title 65 gold and 400 instructions to save 1 cycle. It did matter.
Cycles
You were in a primary tie.
Uh-huh.
And on the winning side of it.
The 10G made all the difference. Bambi would have won on the instruction tertiary.
Oh, yeah. This is plus 65 gold, though, compared to the previous one. So it's very close to, like, losing a placement.
Good thing that you made anything that didn't have to be a piston back into a regular run. This is a very efficient debonding. The L shape, I think, or not L shape, but the elbow with the green and the red and the salt that gets debonded with a pivot up at the top is very space efficient.
That's handled very well.
That's essentially 4 area to debond it.
Also, another 9 cycle loop with very good latency.
Oh, have we been seeing 8 cycle loops already?
I don't know if the last one was an 8 cycle loop or not.
I don't think so. I think we've been still at 9 for various reasons.
Okay, next up we have in 12th place, 92 cycles, 570 gold Nuachar.
Oh, this is a really clean 8-cycle loop.
We're in
And it
8-cycle
has
loop
a high
territory.
instruction count, so it has to be balanced, but it's just not balanced in a way that gets the latency down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love ARM 1. The 8-cycle loop where you can just rotate 3 times is very effective.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be a double arm because I'm assuming it's limited elsewhere. Arm 2. Arm 2 is limited. And Arm 3. And Arm 4.
I mean, once you've decided 8, a lot of things can happen in 8 cycles, and your arms will all use those 8 cycles to do them.
8 cycles is very convenient. 4 cycles, 8 any multiple of 4 is really useful in Opus Magnum.
Also, though, 5 and 6 are pretty useful for other reasons.
Since if it's a multiple of 4, there's the grab, there's the drop, there's the rotates to the place and rotates back. Yeah, next up we have 90 cycles in 11th place, zorflax.
Oh, I just missed top 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
11th place is still pretty good though.
It's better than I was expecting once I found out about buddy duping half an hour ago.
Oh, no, buddy duping doesn't actually go that fast, surprisingly.
Oh. Yeah, this is
what
an
do you do?
8
So you can
cycle
just
loop.
cram salt.
Yeah, this is an 8 cycle loop with meh latency.
Oh, Biggie, have you submitted the salt cramming cycle solution?
No, I didn't think it would be relevant because I could have made it faster. I can send in my fast salt crammer.
Sure, we can show that.
I was very happy with this. Kind of until I realized lower than 8 cycle loop was actually probably possible a couple of days ago, and I didn't quite have enough time to search the solution space enough to find one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is an example.
Yeah, but I did better than I thought I would. This is an actual decent finish, so I'll take it.
Yeah, production is hard. Also, I like ARM 11. That looks very sub-like.
ARM 10 is another good one that I was
yeah.
happy with. ARM 11 was a nice convenient way to balance the quintessence, because I just did not have enough room to put a quintessence output glyph in the main chamber.
Yeah, hex arms are nice. They're nice to look at.
It sucks because I could have just reused this for a for a better loop, tape loop as well. Oh, maybe not the ARM 10. That wouldn't have worked. I would have needed 2 pistons or something.
Yeah, 2 pistons works. ARM 10 is 8 cycle loop. But yeah, next up we have in 10th place at 89 cycles, Spec 98. Congratulations. Though, seeing that Spec 98 though, this is probably a bit worse performance than their usual.
To be fair, I don't think I've ever seen Spec 98 do that well in a production chamber, so it's probably not one of their strong suits, but
Yeah.
10th place is still 10th place.
And since we're in top 10, predictions for top 3?
I want to see how confident Murakonda is, because I think he said it a few times, like, yeah, I might be biggie. I think I'm in top 3, but Murakonda being up there would be exciting.
So,
I think Pentapigs are a relatively safe assumption as well.
So right now it's Pentapig, Pentapig, Biggie, and Murakonda for top 3.
That's the guesses.
I'll go with username Void.
Username Void. Okay. But yeah, this solve though.
Very clean debonding.
Yeah. I wonder if ARM 14 looks kind of familiar, except it's doing slightly different things than what zorflax's hex arm does.
6 arms are really powerful just because, like, the tessellation throughput thing.
Yeah, they're also really useful for the Quintessence glyph because they place 2 onto the glyph very well, and the fact that Quintessence glyph requires individual atoms being handled, and hex arms are good at that.
Yeah, that top left chamber I had is something I'm hoping we'll see in another one of the top solutions. But we'll see.
That's probably the cheapest way you can get 3 an atoms every 3 cycles.
Probably, yeah.
Next up, we have at 88 cycles in 9th place, Evanov. 3 bars walk into a track loop.
Ba-dum-tsh.
There's no into a track loop, it's just into track loop. Still an 8 cycle loop. Arm 16 is just grab drop. Previous solve. Is this the first solve for the completely stuffed main chamber? I don't know, actually. It might be.
Alright, sorry for going quiet, but I just sent in my Soul Crammer, my fastest one.
Was it in Showcase or did you DM it to me?
Oh, it was in Showcase through the site.
Okay.
I'm glad that it still accepts Showcase at this time.
Yeah. I'll have to download it in a bit. Probably when we do Showcase, or in when we finish the cycles metric. Both works. Yeah, this is a very cramped main chamber. Using the space very efficiently. I couldn't tell if this is the first one that is the. I couldn't tell if this is the first one that's completely filled in the main chamber because people have been putting equilibrium glyphs, so it's kind of hard to tell. Also, Panic, I don't. Yeah, it's fine. It's not necessary. I can download it pretty quickly myself since there's a download individual solution button.
Oh, even the host interface through the website is nice. Good job, Panic.
There's something satisfying about like a completely stuffed chamber that's like, yeah, you needed every hex to, make this work. And you used every hex to make this work.
Yeah. Oops. Alrighty, next up in 8th place, we have Mr. Puzzle. 86 cycles. There's no 87 cycles off, unfortunately, for you.
No pileups. Oh well.
Well, it's piling up cycle by cycle. It's been going the one cycle for one cycle at a time that you've been hoping for, though.
Another fully filled. I like that track with a bunch of pistons on it.
It loops.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I like the nice small instruction.
Oh, $5.99. That's pretty low.
Nice.
For instructions that we've been looking at. Sub 600 instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm noticing the reason Mr. Puzzle and Ebanov were able to pit me in the cycle count was latency, and it was exactly because there is a quintessence product in the main chamber which helps with latency at this tape loop length. It might help with lower tape loop length.
Oh, so this one is putting salt into separate conduits, and it's able to get away with that because it's on an 8 loop, and so it can still send everything into one chamber. This breaks down at 6. It works at 7 and at 8.
Also, I don't think I've seen that top left chamber configuration for quintessence actually. That looks new. Or I haven't been paying attention.
Quintessence glyph is bent.
Well, the quintessence glyph has been bent before, but I don't think it's been bent and to the side before like that. Synchronization between arm 2 and 3? Yeah. That's nice to look at. Double grab so you don't have to regrab.
Very narrowly avoid a collision in the top left chamber, because by the time the quint unification glyph activates, there's already 5 elements in there, about to be a 6th.
In fact, 14 has to wait a cycle before
Yeah.
creating the.
Oh yeah, so that the swing can safely happen because both the disappearing and the reappearing are arm size, not atom size. That's cool.
It does come with the advantage of that contestant's output is right next to the conduit. So, easy balancing. Left bottom using double transport.
Yeah, there's conduit phasing to get the 8 cycle loop to work.
Alright, next up we have at 690 gold. Nice. 86 cycles
Nice.
as well. In 7th place, Kevin Aaron,
Ooh.
beating Mr. Puzzle by just a few cost.
I did have a bajillion pistons.
Yeah.
On tracks even.
Okay, so both of the quintessence outputs are in the main chamber.
That's very cool. It means that the ARM 14 can balance by just picking which one to drop the excess on.
Yeah. Very
Because
convenient.
each loop, the piston that grabs off of the quintessence glyph and the ARM 5 that grabs from the center, will put them on 2 separate outputs, but then ARM 14 can pick. One
ARM
for
5
you,
can
one for you. You get a car.
You get a bonus
Like,
quintessence
even-
atom. You get a bonus quintessence
Even
atom.
5 could pick if it wants to.
Yeah, 5 could pick 2. But I guess if they wanted to make like out the programming convenient, so they just made one of the arms do the out balancing.
It's a very space-efficient debonding sequence because it's all translations until the main molecule is debonded.
Mhm.
And everything just kind of happens to the left side of the main chamber.
Yeah, the bottom left side.
ARM 5 has a 8 cycle loop, but I think the actual reason this has to be 8 cycles is because it's dropping out salt on the left side of the main chamber in a location that would crash if you couldn't move the input over it.
Oof.
So the first salt goes out as quick as possible, but the second salt has to go out 3 cycles later, which sets the loop.
So yeah, if that was a rotation over, that probably would have been helpful, but there's no space to fit an arm to do that, unfortunately.
I agree, the quint drops made for a very nice sounding solves.
I remember one of my best sounding solves is synthesis via alcohol. And yeah, in 6th place then, we have 585 gold, Haxton. Pile-ups be happening.
100 gold cheaper.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, congratulations to all in top 10 so far.
I like the 6 arm. It's moving 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a nice 6 arm.
Yeah, arm 3. I glanced at the solution, I thought arm 10 was a hex arm as well. But
Yeah,
no,
it's just
that's
the hex
bird.
holding 6 atoms.
Yeah.
Interesting
arm
that
three is
arm
very
1 has to. Interesting, arm 1 has to wait a cycle before giving that wheel arm the molecule because arm 4 has to like suppress the input.
Yeah, this is definitely arm 3 limited. Also, this is 306 cycles. Not cycles, 306 instructions. That is very cheap
Nice.
in instructions. Finder says they have a 300. Which is coming up at 85 cycles. So yeah, Finder's in 5th place with 85 cycles and 615 gold. And 300 instructions. Not that the instructions matter, but 300 is a very good score.
Now you're thinking with portals, is there phasing happening or is this just a conduit's mean? Also, input and unification in opposite sides of the chamber to give the most freedom to just take the new input without crashing into it.
There's phasing in Conduit 3.
Ah, true.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like that
liking what I'm
ARM 1 is
seeing.
doing the minimum latency. Like ARM 1's doing the minimum latency output.
Looks looks very robo-y.
You remember Mr. Puzzle's computation puzzle that had like the rowing arm?
Yeah,
Like move, rotate, rotate, back, move on
reminds
repeat.
me of that.
Oh, we got Pentapig in chat. I don't usually see him in chat, so this is going to be interesting to be present for the
Pentapig,
final
hi.
results.
Pentapig is up and not like going to bed, and not in bed already. Yeah, since it's very late for the Europeans. Well, speaking of Pentapig, you're up next. At a drop of 5 cycles in 4th place, 80 cycles, Pentapig.
That is a drop.
Oh wow! That also verifies Maraconda's in the top 3.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, 7 cycle loop now.
Had to be, yeah. Ah, wow, that's a lot of wheel arms.
Yeah, those are very efficient wheel arms. Oh.
That's a very dense wheel. It's doing a lot of work. Oh, it makes sense. You can just make the 2 elbows and then stuff them into the wheel arms from the same direction.
Yeah.
That works.
Oh, very nice.
Very clean solve.
See, so at one point, Mora asked something in Discord of like, I wonder if redacted is a good first digit, and my only guess was that he meant 1.
What?
So like a question of whether you could get under 100.
Oh.
I totally underestimated Mora here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in the same boat.
But yeah. Anyways, we take another drop in cycles into 3rd place at 76 cycles, username void. So like,
We finally passed my salt crammer.
there's a giant pile up at around 85 to 89, and now we have just drops all the way down. But yeah, in 3rd place, 76 cycles, username void. How fast does it go? Very.
Hey, that might be a call out to my how low does it go instructions title from last week.
Okay, so 338 instructions, and also 7 cycle loop.
7 cycle loop.
But this one's got very good latency.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
I could never get a 7 cycle loop faster than 80.
Yeah, again with the quintessence outputs being in the main chamber.
Quintessence RB in the main chamber is very powerful. When quintessence glyph in the main chamber is pretty powerful, since that means less conduit usage.
Oh,
Yeah, you can see that both of the salts are going to the conduit on the top right, and that's just... It means you only have to use 6 cycles worth of conduit movement.
Also, I love ARM 1.
Honestly, yeah, ARM 1 is excellent.
I like when ARM 14 has to pass a quintessence through the input. It does a kind of journey to the other side of the chamber.
Yeah, it's doing it looping. It's a balanced looping motion, but ARM 14 does that huge travel.
I guess that contributes to slightly lower latency.
It's the exact same latency for all the rest of the machinery. ARM 14 just manages to pull that off without slowing anything else down. I'm impressed.
Wow. That's barely.
Quintessential Jones, apparently.
I just feel like that's the only reason ARM 10 exists.
But yeah, next up we have another drop in cycles to 2nd place at 68 cycles, Biggie Mac.
Whoa.
Congrats to Mora!
Yeah, congratulations to Maraconda for
Congrats.
getting 1st place! And congratulations to Biggie too. 2nd place is also...
dude, Mora gets to use that achievement thing.
Yeah, okay, that was well placed. Yeah, so this is the 6 cycle loop.
regardless, B, I think you've done pretty well here for a cost main.
Oh right, yeah. This is me out of my element, going fast or something. But yeah, so there is a 6-cycle loop here. I found it with the ability to put both salt on the same conduit. When I could only put salt on 2 separate conduits, it was going to be salt crammer. But once I could put both salt on the same conduit in a 6-cycle loop, it managed to make a really good solution, because then I could use the unification glyph in the side chamber and then get everything crammed out at the end.
Yeah, Biggie was the first one that got a 6-cycle loop, and then was like, I think I have very good solve. The only person that can it can only be beaten by about 2 cycles. What were the 2 cycles that you expected to be beat by?
Oh, so my last quintessence in the bottom right comes from the pass back, but I figured I could be able to get the pass back quintessence out faster, so that the last quintessence to come out was actually the one from the 10th unification. But so there's 2 cycles there. That Arm 9 is technically slow.
Mm-hmm.
I am in love with your debonding sequence because of the way you like are able to bend the elemental atoms around the salt quintessence stick in a way that's close to the unification glyph.
Yes, when I found this, I was like, okay, I have to get it to 6. I got it to 7 first. Then I got my 7 with a side chamber to 80 cycles. Then I got this to 6 without unification at 78 cycles. Then I got this.
Yeah, this is exactly what I tried and failed to find for like 2 days. You've done really well here. Well
6-cycle loop isn't. Yeah, 6-cycle loop isn't easy to find. But yeah, next up we have Morakanta with the 2 cycles shave at 66 cycles.
Oh yes, okay.
In first place.
Well done, I'm so proud to hear that.
Congratulations.
Oh, 66 cycles, 665 gold, 866 instructions.
That's a lot of 6s.
Oh, and he even spotted the cost saving in the side chamber by using a regular arm instead of a piston. I am outclassed in every way by this solution. Well done.
Morakana has achieved 2 achievements. First place in the tournament, week category, and also beating Biggie in a cycles puzzle.
Big congratulations. Also, really clean main chamber. It seems like more space because you only use 4 debonders. I had 5 debonders, so there was so little room for any other arms. You found that extra X you needed. You have Arm 18 doing the same thing I had an Arm doing as well, delaying a drop by 1 cycle to keep the conduit safe.
Oh, there's barely enough room for Arm 18 too. Look, you can't put it anywhere else.
I wonder if that's the extra Nook arm that Morakana saved.
Yeah, when I was searching for like a tumor in the cabinet to put 1 arm, it was doing what Arm 18 here is doing. And yes, Murakanda and I were on the exact same page, and I underestimated him when I had seen what he had said. Really well done.
Yeah, I saw you submit your 68 cycles off. I was like, wow, okay. And then I saw Murakanda submit their 66 cycles off. Like, wow, okay.
And so me saying getting beaten by more than 2 cycles is unlikely probably rang really funny too.
I know, I sent the screenshot to Panic. Panic's been my rep for Ducky.
That's great.
Might be worth mentioning at this point, what half of 66 comes out to?
33. It comes out to 33.
So yeah, sitting on my 68 and getting Bist's hint scared me.
Yeah, so in the meantime, we can go and download that solution that Vicky sent with the salt waste. I think it's a good time to show it now.
Oh, did it not get submitted to the website?
I'm trying to find it.
The checkbox to market a staircase wasn't working, and the solution was rejected. But it's fixed now, apparently. If you try it again.
Okay, you can re-upload it if you want.
I just DM'd it to you on Discord, but I'll upload it as well for posterity.
Oh, DM is faster. Okay, I'll just throw it into my solution files folder. Salt crammer. This is 78 cycles. By just
Yeah.
cramming salt.
This is
Oh,
before I
Jesus
was able to
Christ.
get 2 different conduits for the salt.
So, this is the salt primer solve that would have gotten 4th place.
I hate this.
Wait, no, 3rd place, because Biggie was in the top... Biggie was in the top 3, so, like... Yeah, this would have gotten 3rd place. By salt cramming.
I hate everything this stands for.
You were so happy with the debonding method where it moved the right pieces to the other side of the salt, and all I have to do is make it cram salt and you now hate it. And everything it stands for.
Guess what this also means for instructions? That's 12 instructions. That's to not actually deal with the salt.
Well, in this case, it forced 12T, because you can only use those conduits 11 times each.
Yeah.
So I had to delay the drops on arms 4 and 6.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna see a lot more of that in instructions, though.
Oh boy, salt cramming is common. Okay.
Oh.
Oh no. That wasn't the sequence, not method, is it?
That can't be.
No.
I don't think it is.
No, it's not. It's not as prevalent as in, as it was in week 3.
Week 3.
We'll be moving on to our instruction solves. Let me load them up.
Alright, let's hope it's another blowout, guys.
Alright, let me find the first actual instruction solve. No, that's not instruction, that's not instruction. Is this an instruction solve? Oh no, this one's an instruction solve. Okay, so first off we have in 35th place, that's Pin. Oof, yeah, F.
I appreciate the wheel arms, though.
Yeah,
That makes me happy.
wheel arms are good. This
Unless they're
looks like-
used for salt the disposal shenanigans.
Yeah, this looks like they used their cycles. Caspin looks like she used her cycles method, except with less instructions. Which is one way to go about it. Unfortunately, that it's still pretty cycles heavy though.
Cycle's heavy.
Nice. No, instructions heavy. I'm messing up my words. But yeah, next up we have we have a non-scoring solve by RPO with a drop of instructions by 40 instructions into 105.
No numbered tea here, only chai.
Mhm.
That is a complicated unification.
Yeah, I guess every time those 2 arms act, it's powerful. It moves a lot of atoms, but if you have to act that many times, it's gonna add up.
Mhm.
It's also makes me think about how people in Discord over the week were talking about unification chaos potentially being a tactic.
Unification chaos.
Now that the deadline's passed, I will tell you now, it will not be a tactic.
Yeah, but
Absolutely no way anyone made it work.
I came up with 2 possible ways that you could send a bunch of atoms through a conduit with a very low number of instructions with that conduit and arms in the unification chamber and make the product. Both of them were absolute hell to set up.
yeah, there's just not enough space for unification chaos.
But there's so many like messages that I sent to BIST that basically include the word WEFA for water, earth, fire, air, water, or something like that.
I don't think I read those. Whoops.
That's okay. I was ducking, rubber ducking.
Yeah, I know, like, when it comes to, like, water, air, water, fire, earth, air. Oh, yeah.
Only the Avatar.
Yeah, next up, we have in 34th place at 99 instructions, Papa Mouse. So it's, is this 1T? No, 3, 1.5T?
Oh god, so how are we defining T? Is it just whatever the lowest number is? Just for the
idea.
sake of the stream.
I tend to just view T as the like for this puzzle, it's convenient and accurate enough to count the number of
Outputs per,
inputs grabbed per tape loop.
inputs grab per tape loop, okay.
Yeah, we'll just do that.
Yeah, we'll just do inputs grab per tape loop then. This one's doing one input grab tape loop.
Yeah, and that's correct if you either salt cram or count only the lesser filled quintessence. But if you want to count the greater filled quintessence and you're making 1.5 into that per input, then it's awkward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next up we have big jump in 33rd place with 83 instructions, Mad Master. I see the... What's that called? What's the X instruction called?
The period override?
Yeah, the period override instruction being used, which doesn't count as instructions, by the way. 20 minutes. Yeah.
I like how ARM4 is doing the grab from one conduit, duplicate, and send to the other conduit in five instructions.
Ooh.
That's something I found at one point. I was like, okay, you can do that in 5. And that's it. But it also has to do it twice per input, so that's going to hurt the instructions a bit.
No, ARM5 only has 3 instructions. Oh,
ARM4, I mean.
Oh,
ARM4 has 2 5x instructions.
Ah, okay.
So.
It's got 8 instructions, apparently. Yeah. Next up, we have another drop in instructions in 32nd place, Britboy, at 77 instructions. 1/3 T Burlow-less. Because Burlow is a pain to use in instructions. Because Burlow has 6 sides. And there are 2 salts per input. This is starting to look like an instruction solve.
So how many inputs does it grab per tape loop? 1/3?
Yeah, it looks like 1/13. Is it? I can check.
Yeah, it takes one of them to get 2 of the corners off.
3. Yeah. So it's 3 tape loops for input. Oh, title says 1/3. Okay.
Oh.
We were doing all these calculations and it was right there in the title. Yeah. Next up, we have in 31st place at 76 instructions, Buttermilk Donut.
Interesting that it starts with an action that doesn't move any of the atoms.
Huh. Also, that's an empty chamber right there.
It's to pull off the body duping in a low T manner.
So yeah, one thing I tried to do with the input is that I made the salts and the other cardinal inputs conditionally different to make it hopefully easier for like instruction solving. Like you can start pivoting and pivoting and pivoting to the center to debond all the outsides and leave the salts connected to the quintessence atom still.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. But you then have to make sure you're not grabbing something. Like you're not grabbing a salt that's going to cause the whole thing to go havoc.
Yeah. Next up, we have Ebenov in 30th place with a very nice instruction count of 69.
Nice.
Oh wait,
Nice.
69 for 20. 69
Nice.
420 cycles and 420 gold.
Wow, this set of numbers.
Best solution of the
Okay,
tournament.
Evanov gets at least 69 extra points this tournament.
You gotta give him bonus points. Yeah, I don't feel the need to analyze this because it's perfect. It is without flaw. That's just it's simple.
It also looks to be using arm 1 for a 1 in 4 action for the buddy duping.
I can give Ebenov bonus points at the end of the tournament that makes it just so that they have enough points to not overtake the person above them. Is it intentional? I don't know. I have to ask Ebenov about that. It may be intentional to not improve upon it, though.
I'm not convinced it's intentional.
It might be intentional. It might not be intentional that this solve was made, but it might be intentional that it was never improved upon. Because it's perfect, obviously.
Well, yeah, no need to improve it.
Round them up to the nearest 0.69. But yeah. Okay, next up, we have in 29th place at 66 cycles, 42 Genius 42.
Wow, 66 cycles, that would have won!
No, I mean 66 instructions. God damn it. But anyway, salt
Perfect
waste.
sass.
We're starting to look at the salt waste solutions.
Yeah, it's a 22 use disposal glyph. For the cost of 12 instructions.
I'll just fill that side right up.
Test.
$24 salt is not a lot. I wonder how many people like figured that this would be a nice approach, and how many were like, you know, this is production. Why am I making waste? And dismissed the idea.
There are a handful of production puzzles in the game that are also about waste management if you really want to optimize for one of their metrics.
Though, usually not for instructions.
That's true.
I'll tell you what, I'll be salty if the main solve does this. I'll be salty if the winning solve does this.
Don't worry, it doesn't.
League of Legends player DNA moment.
Well, I can say right here that it doesn't. I think, unless like the winner,
Alright.
unless the winner changed their solve. But yeah, that means if you have a solve like wasting solution, I guess that reveals that you're not first place. Oops.
I'm not trying for first, but I'm glad I dropped a bunch of instructions right before the deadline.
But yeah. Anyways, in 28th place we have 65 instructions, Matter Monkey. This does use the fact that the salts are different conditionally. With R6,
Arm 6 makes it a 1/3 T.
Arm 6 is pretty cool.
yeah. And also R3 that works with it to make it happen.
I wonder if Arm 6 would have worked if it only went 1 instead of 6. Or I mean 2.
I mean, it has to grab every third loop, so...
Well, right. But the input suppression would force it into a 1/6
Oh,
instead.
okay. We can try.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just do
think that would
nothing for
work.
3 loops in between the loops that it's currently doing.
Where is it? There it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's a 1 instruction save, I guess? Let's see if it works. The quintessence might be affected. Quintessence is affected.
Oh, right. Brillo wants to do 1 rotation per third of an input. Now you'll end up getting the wrong sort of Brillos.
Right, because Brillo sucks.
Yeah, really, the fact that Brillo limited you to 1/3 T if you wanted to do something sensible, maybe there's a nonsense way of using it, but that meant that if you wanted to go lower than 1/3 T, it was kind of saying goodbye Brillo and hello salt waste.
There are other ways, though.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. But yeah, next up we have at 27th place in 27th place with 64 instructions, B. Smith. Arm 3 is doing yeah. There's some nice grab conditionals there for the input to make it 1/3 T. Arm 5 is using a lot of instructions though, unfortunately. So is Arm 7. It looks like it's calcifying everything too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just that way you don't really have to worry about the order around the wheel.
Yeah, next up we have in 26th place, also at 64 instructions, but 397 cycles, Chickens in the Attic. They really do not like the input shake now, do they?
Clarification every single time.
Steven would be proud.
Honestly, the input suppression to make it so that you can do clarification at 1/3 T is really neat. Although, yeah, the quintessence building is pretty instruction heavy, and they call that out in chat of Could have made mine so much better with better quint building.
Oof. Clarification for word of the week.
That's a short tape loop for the amount of instructions placed on it.
Yeah. True though. Which makes this faster than the previous solution by quite a bit. Tonic of tonification. But yeah, next up then we have in 25th place at 62 instructions, Goodbye Galaxy. This is silly. Sounds like salt. It is salt.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I think that takes the prize for most wheel arms.
Yeah, there were a bunch. This is 7 wheel arms in a solve. Is this 1T?
Huh.
Arm 1 always succeeds with its grab, so it has to be 1T.
Goes to show how efficient salt is actually is though. You can make a 1T solve.
Also, arm 10, the one-time piston. I mentioned having to debug my solution in the last 20 minutes. Debugging meant add the one-time piston.
Yeah.
Is that what saved you 12 instructions?
No.
It's
No, that
what made
added
the
to
solution I had
instructions.
that was good solve properly.
Yeah.
I had 23 out of 24 outputs with 14 instructions better than my previous best, and then I got it to 12 better than my previous best by adding the piston.
Yeah, next up we have in 24th place at 60 instructions, Spec 98. Oof. I remember this being a very clever looking solve though. Especially with arm 1 and, I think that's arm 2. Covered by arm 5. It's using buddy duplication.
Oh, okay, I see how it does buddy duplication properly. There's an arm that is on a 6-cycle loop doing a triple pivot, or a 6-loop cadence doing a triple pivot, and then the rest of the solution's on a 3-loop cadence.
Arm 11
I'm
is
a
doing
big-
grab drops. Conditionally.
I'm a big fan of arm 1.
Arm 6 is only doing grab drops. Yeah, arm 1 and arm 2 are look really nice. Arm 6 is only doing grab drops, and arm 11 is doing grab drops every 3 tape loops. Lots of grab drops happening.
Don't worry, Goodbye Galaxy and Spec 98. I have zero doubt that you're going to kick ass next week.
Alrighty, next up we have in 59 instructions, 23rd place, to layer. Saw wastes. Every time you just see 4 hex arms in the side chambers, it's saw waste time.
Yep. It's really instruction efficient to just not have to unify another set of atoms.
Oh wait, this looks a lot like their Psycho stuff.
It does. It's basically the exact same. I remember the 2 arms.
Just chickens in the attic proof this instruction solve the poor guy.
Otular says to pay attention to the conduit phasing that happens at cycles 210 and 212.
210 and
I wonder if that's salt waste.
probably salt waste, like conduit phasing. That happens a lot. Like, you just grab drop with the conduits and it just happens. Yeah, lots of salt waste. Alright, next up.
The person who was talking about how you can use conduit phasing, hello Jasper, that really only works if you're using one salt dropped on the conduit per tape loop. As soon as you go to like 1/6 T on the input, you're going to end up dropping salt too often. Conduit phasing won't work because you'll have a salt on the conduit already.
Alrighty, next up we have at 134 cycles, in also at 59 instructions, in 22nd place. Well, hello Jasper, was mentioned.
Oh, speak of the devil. No offense.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear.
The devil with salt wheels, apparently.
That is the devil.
This is just the instructions version of a cycle solve.
Yeah,
the entire layout with several debonders and unification in the main chamber is based on the cycle solve, exactly. Not balanced and without any side chamber action.
Yeah, that's kind of the palette we're at right now. It's the instruction solves that I happened to find out about salt waste.
Yeah, my salt timer has a version of it that's 55 instructions and 130 cycles. Or 130.
Secondary spot.
Alright, next up we have in 21st place at 58 instructions on K. Okay, no more salt waste. Oh, what is that?
Whoa.
These are weird partials. Well done. Really wanted to make it into an assembly line so that it could have 2 atoms per tape loop and pass something through that looks rather like quintessence each time.
How many rotations on Berlo per tape loop? 1.
This is 1 rotation on Berlo.
Nice.
This looks like what my starting solve was. Not exactly, but with the same sort of method of put 2 not salts, then 2 salts, then 2 not salts, and use 1 Berlo rotation to make it all work.
Yeah, getting 1 Berlo rotation per input, per tape loop is very, it's not easy for this puzzle. It's a really clever solution. Oh, the secret sauce is salt. Just salt waste. That's the secret sauce.
Secret sludge.
It's a rather salty sauce.
I mean, it's not exactly secret sauce though, it's more so method than secret sauce.
It's sacred sludge. That's what I'm going with.
Alrighty, next up we have in 20th place at 56 instructions, Tridodi. That's the same solution name. Oh my god, arm 3.
It's a boat.
Oh, so conditional flare making. That's more efficient than what Chickens in the Attic had.
More flares.
That's a good track loop.
Arm 5 is instruction heavy though. Arm 5, yeah, Arm 5. It has to do the pull twice per tape loop.
Also, the name I make to these, it reminds me of this old comic about the gallbladder. Like, weird thing to say, but it's like a personified gallbladder who's really proud of the stones that it made. And all the other organs are like, you are terrible, don't make these. And it's just like, I make these. I don't know if that's the reference being made, but that's what it conjures up for me.
Uh-huh. But yeah, next up then, we have at 55 instructions in 19th place, Bambi. Better Berlo. So you know how Berlo is annoying?
Make your own.
Here's a Berlo here's a four-sided Berlo for you.
I was wondering if this was doable, but oh my god, it's beautiful.
I love it.
Four-sided Merlot.
I'll make
This
my
feels
own.
more secret sauce than we're
blackjack.
actually.
Look at
Yeah. I know this stuff is like just fun to watch. Make your
this is just like what I did for the weeklies for the shitpost puzzle.
don't like that the Merlot has 6 sides. Make your own with only 4.
The fact that it just works with one pivot each cycle or tape loop and still comes out like a 4-sided Merlot.
Yeah, I remember Mr. Puzzle making a huge 4-cycle like 4-sided Merlot before, but though that one operates at 1 rotation, like just
Yeah, you
that
didn't
one-
have to pull it away from its tile to get it to work.
Yeah, that one spun in place consistently.
that one
Good.
actually turns in 1 instruction. This one turns in where's arm 6? 4. Yeah, next up we have in 18th place at 54 instructions, Gecko. Wasteless, and only 1 chamber. Single chambers off. Nice to see. Oh, this is buddy duplication.
Yeah, arm 1 here is doing a buddy duplication pivot.
Oh, yeah, I see. It does it and then moves out of the way. Also, the name implies that Gecko probably made a waste solve before.
I agree, better and more elegant.
Yeah, next up we have in 17th place at 53 instructions, Morconda. Unfortunately not doing as well in instructions as in cycles.
Oh, it's at least meaningfully different than the cycle solve. I had a feeling based on something he had said that we were just going to see the cycle solve a second time, but spread out differently.
Yeah, maybe this is an old cycle solve. That could be likely.
He said it's a cycles algorithm, so basically unification in main chamber and then backup unification.
Mm-hmm. It only has 1 unification glyph though.
True, so it's doing the backup unification in main chamber as well, using atoms passed in from conduit 2, 3, 1. 10 instructions saved by replacing unification in the top left with passing back through the conduit. Got it.
Ah, okay.
That's clever.
Yeah. Alrighty, next up we have in 52 instructions in 16th place, Fiesta. That is... Arm 2 is pretty instruction heavy. It's also really arm heavy too. Also, that's a 1 rotation Burlow.
Yeah, it's grabbing the input every third loop, so 1 instruction Burlow makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Oh, single unification waste list was my first decent solve. I can send that if it doesn't get basically outclassed with the same method by someone.
Mhm. Yeah. Next up, we have in 15th place at 48 instruction, Cavalier. I see an atom and I want it painted white. I assume 1/9 is 1/90.
48 instructions. Okay, so we passed me already. Okay. Well, me as I had been before this last half hour.
It's also a Rolling Stones reference for those in the audience.
Ah, okay.
See a red door and you want it painted black.
So yeah, everything's calcified, I think. Yeah, I believe. Yeah. Arm 2, we have another long track loop.
It's cool to be able to see these long track loops in the production chamber.
Yeah. They haven't been viable in the trackless instructions magic. So it's fun to see here.
Definitely not viable in the trackless instructions metric at all.
Or track plus instructions magic.
Ah,
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, it's not viable. I'm not wrong.
you're technically correct, Best.
Yeah, it's best kind of correct. Yeah, next up we have in 14th place at 558 cycles instead, Velbacane. Also, single chamber. Okay. That's a very low amount of arms. Everything fits in one chamber and all the instructions fits in one screen.
Compact.
Arm 5 is doing a lot though.
Yeah, it's busiest thing in the solve. Oh, because it's conditionally bonding the atom that's made too many loops.
Oh, so that's how it deals with. Okay.
Arm 3 is nearly as busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, low amount of arms though.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next up, we have in 13th place at 541 cycles. Wow.
The pileup at 48.
Zorflax.
Oh my
Congratulations,
god.
Zorflax, you won the... No, never mind.
Oh, that's
There's one more
wow.
48 instructions.
Oh, there's another one! I didn't even win the pile up.
But you won by 17 cycles for a placement.
Oh,
Oh, flare. Okay.
I think it was
We're doing
Velbacane.
flarification. Oh, right, you mentioned about flarification.
Yeah, I thought Zorflax might have been clarification. Cool to put the extra debonding in the other situation to save a couple pivots.
Yeah. My biggest regret was that Arm 1 needed 4 pivots, but
Oh, yeah.
that was, yeah. Otherwise, I thought this was pretty clean, and this was the only idea I had all week. Didn't find anything else whatsoever remotely
idea.
viable. So I'm like, yeah, well,
Turn everything into a flare.
I don't need to conditional anything because it's all salt. I don't have to think hard about it. I can just do it.
I mean, to be fair, throwing away all the salt also isn't much effort.
Yeah, but
It wouldn't work if you
That's
threw away
not
all the salt after making everything salt,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah.
yeah, it might not even be the best flarification solve. I wonder if I got beaten in that department as well.
I think it probably is. I don't remember seeing anymore.
Also, Arm 2 is the exact same Arm 2 with the instruction count and everything as my cycle solve. It just worked for both.
Yeah. Next up, we have in 12th place at 409 cycles, Guilty Bystander. This looks like their cycle's off.
One
Safety
input per
bonding
three
method.
cycle, per 3 tape loops.
This looks like their
So
cycle
it's-
solve algorithm, but, conditional.
Hmm.
So they had mentioned in chat that their arm that is moving past the Burlow is it could have improved by 2 instructions overall by using the 6 arm that has 5 instructions instead of this one with 6.
I'm wondering because you're passing 2 atoms into the conduit chamber per loop, which is exactly what I did. This looks like it takes up more instructions than what I did, which hints at the potential to save more instructions.
This could save. There's 1 instruction right there with arm 5. But I don't know if
It's
there
2
are
instructions because
other.
arm 5 operates twice in the tape.
Oh.
Yeah, I count 6 instructions that this probably would have saved if it used my left chambers.
Cool.
Which is an interesting little tidbit as to how much the left chambers mattered.
Yeah. It also goes to show how efficient the right chamber is, though.
It does, yes. It also speaks to how much more efficient the right chamber was than mine.
This is a really good right chamber.
Yeah.
But it does unfortunately require arm 2 active twice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Acting twice is pretty bad. Acting twice is pretty bad for instructions, so if you're gonna have to try to reduce as much as possible, but that's easier said than done.
Oh yeah, for this puzzle, definitely. That was
when you have a ratio of the Burlow actions to arm 2 actions of 2 to 1, you can't half rotate the Burlow. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Next up, we have in 11th place at instruction drop 44 instructions, Haxton. Sought.
Oh. Oh, that's just as many hex arms as Goodbye Galaxies.
7 hexes.
Oh yeah, well, it would have helped with metric points Guilty Bystander. Just not placement-wise. Oh, Rolami has top 10. Nice. Oh yeah, definitely just barely. Yeah, Rolami in top 10 with 44 instructions and 273 cycles.
That's quite fast.
Yeah. Salt. Wait, this looks almost like the same solve.
Damn.
I'm you, but faster.
I like arm 11 giving the conduit a little squeeze to help insist on the phasing.
Ooh. And then it crashes immediately, the cycle after. It solves and then it, collides. So...
But yeah, this salt that needs to be squeezed is the thing I was saying about how if you have partial T, then the left chambers really are only a 22 use disposal.
Lore-wise, though, this means that the cart they're trying to make is going to run a few meters and then stop. So, everybody making non-looping solves, you ruined the main character's plans.
You got the bad end.
Why would optimizing for instructions matter if you have to make infinitely many things anyway? There's infinitely many instructions that you'd be using.
Yeah. But yeah, next up we have in 9th place. Oh yeah, since we're in top 10, any predictions for top 3?
Not me. I don't think there'll be pile-ups.
Pentafig. Yeah.
Oh, Rebix.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. I don't really. I'd be sad if it's me.
Yeah. But yeah, next up in ninth place, we have, well, next up in ninth place, we have 42 instructions, new char.
God damn it.
Zorflax, you're really good at that.
Yeah, apologies to Nichar for jinxing. Again.
Okay, so salt waste.
7
Interesting.
wheel
I'm
arms again.
We're in the salt waste pile up. But also, this is more salt chaos than all the previous solves with salt.
It has to delay
yeah.
putting it on the conduits as long as it can, so it goes back across all of the quint arms. That's really funny.
I wonder how many more
This is
outputs this can
salt?
do after it solves.
One thing that I used to keep there being more space in my salt chamber was I don't drop with the second arm until the cycle that the other arm grabs, so that they can grab drop over a conduit without activating that conduit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Also, this is
I'm
slow.
so torn because it's salt waste, but it's also chaos.
This one's probably one of the best, like, looking salt waste solves.
Yeah, because the actual salt storage loop goes around the actual main chamber in addition to taking both of the small chambers. I tried Quint Chaos and then I tried Salt Chaos, and something I said to Bist was basically, oh, screw Quint Chaos. Salt Chaos is where it is.
I never considered salt chaos. Like, I was just trying to get quint chaos to work, and I'm like, yeah, not happening. Salt chaos is, well, kind of cool. I'll give it points.
It's regrettably powerful.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. How many instructions does ARM 10 have?
ARM 10?
Yeah, everything else is like
a lot.
2 or 3.
Yeah, ARM 10 has a lot of instructions. Okay, let's see how many more we can output after the fact. After it solves. 1. Just 1. Okay. Alright, next up we have in 8th place at 622 cycles, Mr. Puzzle.
Hey.
ACG.
Nice instruction counts. Nice.
Not salt waste.
Nice.
Nice Burlow, too. It's kind of dense on each arm, though, but I guess they're just less arms. Well, not exactly dense, but it's got quite a bit of instructions on each arm, but it's just not as many arms. A lot smaller drops than previous weeks. Yeah.
Oh, I think I had that exact top left chamber at one point. Pretty much that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, that's the top left chamber that was in my wasteless solve. Only I put it in the bottom left instead of the top left.
Doesn't matter too much, it's identical functionally. Since
Matters, Bist. Matters.
It's important.
It's not like last year where like the conduit shapes are different for the two chambers. The conduit sizes were different actually. But yeah, next up we have at 433 cycles, instruction pile up apparently, Cuckoo 52. Ultimate question. That is definitely a reference to the 42.
Yes. The answer, of course, is 42.
So this is a calcify everything solve. Burlow on a track, is that a first?
Oh, it's to guarantee input suppression? No, what is it to do?
It's probably just Burlow shenanigans. I have no idea. Input suppression.
Oh yeah,
I
arm
love that.
needs to not grab at the earth.
I love that the quintessence in the bottom left chamber just goes on a journey for no reason. It just does because it can, and it looks cool.
I don't think it's faster if you move the quintessence glyph, quintessence output. Actually, I think I tried.
Oh right,
Nah,
because that's
'cause
going to be
it's
the
not
output that goes
limiting.
in 18 times, but the top output in the other chamber goes in 12.
Ah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That's how you do Quint in 4-8. That's how you do Quint in AI. Yeah. Yeah, Burlow does suppression. Here,
Using the different chambers
so that arm 1 doesn't
for the
grab
different conduits.
anything.
Cheeky Burlow is good.
Burlow on track is like not very intuitive apparently. Many people miss that you can actually put the Burlow on the track. But yeah, next up in 6th place we have with 41 instructions, username Void. Congratulations on getting 6th place. And congratulations to everyone top 10 too. Oh, here we go.
Ah,
As
shit.
expected.
Here we go again.
Salt waste goes surprisingly low.
This is another 7 hex arms solve.
Oh yeah, 7 hexams are pretty powerful.
God damn.
Oh, it even does one more after the output. Nice. After one more output after it finishes solving. Yeah, next up.
That makes sense because it has the buffer with arm 4 to allow the conduit phasing to come back through.
Yeah. Alrighty, next up we have in 5th place, Not Great, at 39 instructions.
Nice, into the 30s.
It's starting to drop. Also, it's not salt waste, so that's good. It is calcifying everything though. This is 30, half-D? Can't tell.
Oh my gosh, this like conceptually super simple, but it's really
wow.
elegantly done.
Yeah.
I like this solve a lot.
This is like way much more straightforward than all the other solves.
I like how the arms 5 and 6 are doing their grabs so far before their actions to allow it to be 1/3 T, even though if they grabbed right before they acted, they would be half T instead.
I feel like so many people try to make Burlow 1 instruction when 3 instruction Burlow isn't that bad. And like saves instructions everywhere else, like a lot.
Yeah, okay, this makes sense. 3 instruction Burlow makes sense.
Like, 3 instruction Burlow is basically like a 4-sided Burlow. Operating twice per loop. And that's not, 3 instruction isn't that bad. And it saves like trying to finagle everything else in the solution.
That's a good point.
I guess Haxton and Chickens in the Attic, I think it's Chickens in the Attic, say to ignore their showcase solves.
I know 2 of my showcases still have something that hasn't been seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next up we have in 4th place at 38 instructions, That means Biggie Mac is in top 3. In 4th place, we have Finder.
Nice.
Thank
Only I know that
you.
my instruction count was top 3 after you said that. But yeah, I leapfrogged from 15th to 3rd in the last half hour.
Yeah. So this is 190. This was the first place solve for quite a while.
Oh, very cool.
I wasn't aware Fendir was so good at production puzzles, actually.
During the 2020 tournament that I was leading, he was second in, I think, both metrics behind Pentating.
Ooh.
Oh, damn.
Finder says they're not. Your performance says otherwise. Production is hard. It's easy to feel like you're not good at it, I guess.
Yeah, there's the most imposter syndrome in the game coming from these production chambers.
It's kind of like starting with Opus Magnum, going to Space Chem and be like, what the heck? What is this? Why is this game so hard? Except Space Chem has flip-flops that makes everything easier.
So this is a 1/3 conditional on top of a 1/3 conditional to end up being 1/9. Because I'm watching Arm 4. It doesn't have anything to grab until 3 times around its track.
Conditionals upon conditionals reminds me of that solve you made, which is like very, very low in throughput. And like gets increasingly worse exponentially.
Oh, gotcha. The titration solve?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to basically make something happen based on the state of the board and not just the position of the arm on its loop. Because if Arm 4 did the same thing every time it reached the same position, this would be 1/3 T. But the state of the board is also evolving such that Arm 4 doesn't do something until the 3rd time around its loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conditionals to have Arm 6 put the salts into the Conduit 1, whereas Arm 2 handles the rest of the elements into Conduit 1 is very clean.
Yeah. Finder messaged me saying that they were really proud of like their 1/9 T solve. And yeah, this is a solve to be proud of. But yeah, comparatively, the next solve in 37 instructions by Biggie Mac.
I went from 49 to 37 with one concept, which was salt waste.
But like, that's a very efficient main chamber then.
Yeah, I think I did another one that was salt waste, and it was 53 because I could not find this sort of quintessence building algorithm.
Oh, look at Arm
Really?
11.
This one is saved by Arm 5. Arm 5 is able to do a job on the quintessence and deliver salt to the conduit and deliver quintessence to the output.
Okay, like, even though this is salt waste, everything else about it's still clever.
Thank you, I tried. I just felt dirty because I was like, okay, 49 is quite bad. I know this now. I assumed it before, but now I kind of know it. Let me give salt waste another try. And there's one too many salt for it to complete without Arm 11. So that piston is there with a grab extend, and then it just sits there into perpetuity.
Mm-hmm. Good thing there's no, like,
oh my
error.
god, Guilty, you're right. Guilty is right, and I just totally blinked. It was initially a 6, or just a 1 arm, but yeah, Arm 5 is 1 instruction inefficient. That's the thing I missed.
It is, yeah. Yeah, there's no reason.
Yep, that's just a brain fart coming from like the last minute nature of this solve.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's very understandable though.
Yeah. But somehow it still gets 3rd place. But yeah, so fortunately for me, as the host, there are solves that do better without salt waste, I think. I don't know what Revix did. I haven't checked Revix solve, to be honest. In second place, we have Repix at 36 instructions. At 858 cycles, so
Oh, I
you
could have
could have
beaten that with
beaten
the
the
one instruction.
Repix. Okay, no salt
Oh.
waste.
The one eye does
Look,
matter.
Nice multitasking on arm 7.
I like the multitasking going on, for sure.
I think Utopia's pretty good at production instructions as well. Too bad they didn't participate this week. Yeah, Utopia's been doing a lot of instructions. Like, instructions in, like, infinite space with just tracks, long track, and 3 instructions, too. They're probably the second best person
Yeah.
at it, like, second to Rolomni, but though I think User and Void is also good at those, too.
Yeah, Toby mentioned being preoccupied with other video games at the moment, which is
Okay.
valid.
Yeah, this looks very clean.
I'm really impressed that arms 5 and 6 are kind of like exchanging pivots, but not doing pivot bug. They're there to keep the input in the right place for what it's doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, just pushing it back so that Burlo can be one instruction.
And that does save Pentapig for the top.
Yeah, so it's basically doing what people would want to do with a pivot glitch, I think. But pivot glitch gives an extra pivot. But it does it without using a pivot glitch. But yeah, that leaves Pentapig for first place, with a drop of primary to 32 instructions.
Very nice. I was hoping that Pentapig would blow everyone out of the water.
That also
Helps me feel less dirty about my final solution.
Yeah, so it makes sense why you would think there's a lot of solves that's much better than yours. That there's a lot more solves better than yours because there's quite a drop between first and second. But this is also fast.
It's doing the shape.
Permanent air duplication, though.
Yeah. So that Burlo can be 2 instructions, Burlo. Okay.
Man, the shape it turns the input into though is one I was searching in.
Oh yeah, reactive cinnabar?
Yeah, that's the shape. Couldn't figure out a good way to get that shape to pop up, but
Oh, partial reactive cinnabar, I guess. It was debonded before it actually became, like, the shape.
Right. Like a little coil that you unwind.
The use of both conduits with different timings. I think this solve has so much good to study in it.
Uh-huh.
Because this lets it be 1 atom per tape loop, but with a broken into 4s aspect with the Burlo and the Quint. Broken into 6 aspect with the input shape.
What does the air do, though? Oh yeah, so...
The air lets you make there be, one atom gets to avoid going to the Burlo chamber.
Uh-huh.
I like when R-Mate grabs the final salt that's connected to the quintessence, it does this clutch rotation that lands perfectly on the debonder to arm 4, which then just palms off the quintessence to arm 8, and it's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
I guess this is 1/7 then, because arm 8...
It's 1/7 because suppression, is it?
No, it's 1/6. It's 1/6 because arm 4 is moving something differently.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious why arm 10 is on a track, and we would need to go to the beginning to see that. Oh wait, no, it has to be on a track. If it rotated as its first instruction, it would rotate all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it needs to push.
So it's just grab push. That's all it does. And it's got space, so it doesn't have to be a piston. Fortunately, there's no like errors that like no more movement for tracks and no more extensions for pistons.
Those errors exist in the code.
Yeah.
They're there, and I'm glad they are not used because that would
be very annoying.
The game is way more interesting when you can do stuff like this.
Very impressive solve by Pentapig.
Yeah, there's a lot of good to study here. I'm pleased that this solved one instead of something with salt waste.
And also, so y'all know another puzzle with the name Aether in it?
Detector?
Do we have a new instructions record on that puzzle from Pentapig?
Aether Detector is 42 instructions as a record. And now it's 36.
Hey.
Huge drop. Incredible work.
Whoa.
Oh, this is the one that always had the calcifier to make sure that the first atom could be the core.
Yeah.
I'm confused what this saves over the previous one, because this looks like everything that I thought the solution that used to exist did.
No
But I
idea.
never studied it closely.
The solution is still there on the leaderboard, I believe. You can check it out.
Is it arm 1? Is it arm 1 on the right chamber? No, it's the left chamber. I'm
No.
wrong. Never mind.
My guess is it's well, I haven't looked at it recently, but I feel like Arm 4 is moving it differently than what I recall. That would be my bet. Place your bets on where the save is.
Pentapig confirms it's the left chamber, and I guess when you're looking at the current Aether reactor puzzle and you want to get one edge atom off it, you come up with something that looks very much like this left chamber.
Oh yeah.
But now that you don't have to actually create those bonds first, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah, this left chamber definitely looks much cleaner than the record. The record looks really messy with debonding the input. This one looks much cleaner.
Well done, Pentapig. Good instructions record.
Yeah, this is by Pentapig. And yeah, that is all of our that is all the scoring solves. And right now we can put in the scores.
Alright. This is a big week for me.
Yeah. Okay, so let me actually combine things. And standings. Control A, Control C. Open the document.
Since when did you? When exactly did you go Super Saiyan?
Me?
Yeah, you. Look at your last 2 weeks. You've been playing incredibly.
I had a good couple of weeks.
Okay, results are up there. Okay, and it has updated our stream as well. Biggie Mac is now in second place.
It's still 5 whole points to Pentapig.
Yeah, it's still 5.
Well,
And also,
really
Rolombi
tight
is very
Rolombi.
close behind still.
Yeah, I was about to say, Rolombi had like 4 points on Biggie heading into this week. Like, he's still in it.
And Spect has taken the old, was it Mr. Puzzle's old position of
No, that was
really
your old
far away
position.
in both directions?
Yeah.
I'm still in 6th from last week. 6th, 5th, and 7th, where I hang out.
Everything below like around 6 changes a lot though. Oh, Goodbye Galaxy has been dropping. Goodbye Galaxy dropped a lot this week, unfortunately.
Murakonda climbed, and I think Murakonda is the lowest ranked player with a winning week, and that's kind of funny.
I mean, there's also Shadow Cluster.
Ah, that's true, but Shadow Cluster's wins don't count.
Previously, that was Ibanov. And the I was about to find the highest scoring player without winning a week, but that's Rolami. Rolami is very consistent.
Last year, Volomni won 4 categories in a row, double wins in 2 adjacent weeks.
Yeah. Also, Finder's back in top 10 with a very amazing production week. Even though very amazing in production weeks means 8 points. Like around 8 points. Usually that's 9.
Yeah, honestly, the instructions, both the tracklist instructions and the production instructions, those are such punishing metrics. Like, Pig and I both took a win in each of them, and we're top 2 for those weeks mostly. Like, lots of other reasons, but those weeks are really easy to get a lot of our points from.
Next week, however,
Username
not so
Void.
much. But there are a few more weeks coming up where you can gain like several points.
I imagine next week there will be primary ties throughout like the top 20.
I imagine more than top 20, but with less submitters, yeah, probably top 20.
Username Void's been doing very consistently.
Yeah,
just in the background.
Void has been too. So username Void is consistent. Numachar is really consistent as well, but a bit more ups and downs.
That's relatable.
Zorflax has a single white tile in their row.
It's just there, just mocking me.
Yeah, it doesn't help that it's some of all things. Yeah, well, there's another sum puzzle coming up. Yeah, you have your redemption.
Alright, I'm going to try not having performance anxiety next sum puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
That'll help.
Hopefully.
Simply do not have the anxiety. I understand.
Yeah, no, just
don't have
get
anxiety.
anxious. That's easy, right? That's how that works.
But yeah, anyways, we still have our showcase solves to go through. There's no puzzle review this week. That's gonna happen next week off stream. It's just gonna appear on the website at midnight UTC exactly. I might not be awake for it, so y'all have to post the link yourselves. But yeah, showcase. And we're starting with this showcase by Frogfather, which who hasn't submitted for the main metrics actually, but has submitted for a showcase for overlap.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing Frogfather talk about overlap in the Discord.
Via wanding only.
That's pretty satisfying.
Song. Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
Oh, this is faster than my overlap solve then. That's cool.
20 cycles? Yeah. Biggie Mac has 24 cycles. There's an even faster one, I think.
Yeah, there's probably faster too. Mine was mostly an instructions meme and not so much a cycle.
No, this is the fastest. This is the fastest. There's ones with mixed instructions though. No. Oh wait, no, that's overlap cost. This is overlap. I guess that's also overlap cost.
I had the same question as chat. How does this differentiate between the output that comes from the center and coming from quintessence?
Is it like one of them drops on the first half cycle and the other drops on the second half cycle somehow?
But I think the output would always greedily pick whichever one it could first. So I don't think that works unless this proves that it does. I think we need Greemy in on this for the science.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a glyph priority thing. Has to be.
The only place that quintessence can be output is the center. So there's 2 quint outputs on that tile.
Oh yeah, there's 2 quint outputs on that tile. I wonder how that works. Since they're identical.
Oh, but if it's inputs, debonders, quint, unification, quint, then the ones from unification are only allowed to be output by the final quint, but the ones from input are greedily output by the lower quint?
Huh.
Yeah,
there might be a method to differentiating using a debonder stacked under the first quint, unification stacked above. Yeah, like Finder said, one output below and one above.
Yeah, that should work.
Spicy.
Well, since we're on overlap instructions, not overlap cycles, though, we can show the other ones. There's Mr. Puzzle's Give Me That Post-Solve Lore, which is, I guess doesn't quite count because it's outside.
Break out of the box.
I guess it's overlap instructions. No, not really.
Oh.
But yeah, you can just, go outside the chambers. Oh, it's lagging.
Oh, those
I wonder
metric
why.
points. Good.
Imagine having to do big squing calculations in production.
But yeah, this is basically the same algorithm as Welcome to House Colvin TI, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also Biggie's Any Percent, which is overlap cycles.
It was overlap instructions. This is a 2i solve.
Oh, overlap, yeah, this is overlap instructions 2i. Oh, is it
Conduit
using
duping.
Also,
Yeah.
that's input duping.
Input duping and conduit duping, yeah. So you just use one arm to grab both Quint and dupe it.
Uh-huh. And we have overlap cost. Also with conduit duping.
Hell yeah.
So when there's a debonder and a bonder on a conduit, it tries to move the molecule and then the bond restores it. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, Mr. Puzzle's using conduit duping the same way.
Yeah, except he's using it for cost. And not cycles.
And also, I'm not duplicating the input. Because that would be cheating.
Oh, yeah, there's a cheat happening in mine.
Oh, poor shame.
This one can be done entirely inside the game editor.
Yeah, I had to figure out how to use FiEdit because the Fazzoni Russell's editor doesn't actually support production.
Yeah, I figured that out as well.
Yeah, for an explanation of conduit duping, come to Discord. I don't think I can give it vocally. I need to have a wall of text.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so, let's see. We have Gecko's solve that had waste, yeah, since this said their solve was much more elegant. This is the less elegant version. Just solve. Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, there's an easy way to believe that you might have been the only person to see it, but this was actually quite frequently seen.
And there's also Biggie Max.
Ah, yes.
Optimized for maximum dispersion glyphs.
I placed 7 dispersion glyphs in the main chamber.
Well, that's how you go fast, right? You gotta cover everything with stuff.
And then there's just enough space in the other 2 chambers to completely solve the puzzle.
Trypophobia intensifies.
I don't know if we need to really watch it, but this is even balanced. There's
It's balanced.
4 inputs processed and 5 outputs made.
But yeah.
I initially just wanted to make ignore the main chamber solve, and then I thought, this can be funnier if I fill the main chamber with the most useless glyph.
Yeah. I think this is the only solve that used dispersion. That actually solved
And
the
we used
puzzle.
it 7 times.
Yeah, and Mr. Puzzle has a solve called Quarantine. I'm not sure what that is.
Ooh, hoo, hoo. Get excited.
Oh. Yeah, you can do that.
This
Arms
is
and
the Arm
atoms.
Island.
Arms and atoms stay in separate chambers. Safe.
This is like...
The grippers have little gloves on them for handling the atoms.
Yeah.
There is a cheat in here though.
Huh.
I got to use a little bit of overlap to get that last hex on the on the Quint glyph because literally nowhere could you put it and be able to access all of the hexes.
Wait, so where is it?
Watch
There's a
arm.
bonder and a debonder on the coin list.
Oh, okay.
It's like they're handling radioactive waste.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, that's unfortunate. Still funny though.
It's a shame the
However,
rest of the solve was
creativity.
right?
Sorry, Zorflax, you didn't come through. What'd you say?
Oh, that was just joking that it's such a shame that you needed overlap because the rest of the solve is so perfectly illegal.
Yeah. Well, not really, but it's technically overlapping the chamber walls.
Hey, come on! I can make this in game.
Yeah, and
It's
you
fine.
Wait, is this possible in game?
Yeah, because like what you do is you place arm 4 on like the negative track hex, and then you pick it up, you rotate it, you do the same overlap trick,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
swing it
sense.
into place.
Yeah, overlap.
Just like
I
with
forgot
the-
overlap check existed.
I only knew how to make arms cross the chamber walls by making them upgraded from like a single
Yeah,
arm
so
to a
you can also
multi-arm.
do this. What? Can I not do
You
that?
have to be able to place the multi-arm, so you have to be one away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there. You can do that. Or you can... Can you do this? No? Huh. That's weird.
Wait, are you trying to do the? Are you trying to do the origin?
No, I'm just doing this.
Oh, okay.
But like, I was imagining if this was rotated, it would have fit. But that doesn't work, apparently. Like, so technically I can do that, but it detects that somehow. But not like this.
Yeah, it's really unclear. I was trying to do something like this for giggles and it didn't work.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, next up we have, I guess just some various random solves. This one's by Kuku52, 160 input. Guess it's one of the old solves. What's arm 4 doing? Arm 4 is just vibing.
It ends its tape on a slightly different hex each time, so it has to work at timing.
And there's 2 more solves by Genius42. One chamber showcase. Though I guess we've seen that actually. With another solve. But yeah, this is another one chamber. And Simplicity Showcase, also by Genius42. Yeah, just a simple solve. This looks like a first solve. Funny enough, this beats RPO's instruction solve by basically doing what a first solve would do.
RPA's cycle solve, though, is still legendary, just how densely packed it was.
Yeah. But yeah, that should be all for this week. I think so. There's a few, like, there's a few showcase solves that were requested that didn't have to be shown. We can also, wait. Mr. Puzzle has one more, I think. I think I missed that one.
Yeah, it's a salt one.
Wait, there was duplication?
Because
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think people would actually do salt solves, so I was like, I'll do
this
one
one has
for
a
sure.
bonder.
At least I do it differently though.
Yeah. You have 2 more hexes of salt space. So exactly 24, yeah. Exactly 24 in the chamber of the... I think Pentabig sent me a solve that did this. Before they, like, made their better solve that actually used the salt.
Also, Catspin points out, Mr. Puzzle, the bonders are completely unnecessary because the 6-arm can do all of it without bonding.
That's true, but also, I did have the intention of...
Oh wait, the conduit
Yeah,
swaps.
no. Yeah, it's done. God damn it. Oh, that totally ruined my gold secondary.
Showcase primary gold secondary improvement.
Oof.
Yeah, I think that's all the solves. Like, all the showcase solves. If I haven't... Yeah. If I happen to miss yours, you can post it in the Discord. But yeah, that should be all. And as I said before, week 7 will be released the next week, next Saturday at midnight. And the current ongoing week is week 6. 1 week has already gone by, but you still have 2 weeks to work on this puzzle. If you're currently experiencing tournament fatigue, you can feel free to take a rest. This puzzle, I guess it looks intimidating, but I've heard from people that it's not actually that difficult compared to like production. But yeah, remember to take
I think,
plenty of rest.
yeah, I think time-wise, it'll give people breathing room, which I think is very much, for me at least, it's very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, thank you all for coming in the stream, and we'll see
Oh,
you the
uh,
next week.
Biss.
Oh right, yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
So Mr. Puzzle has been working on a little something, and
Cooking a little something up.
let me try to get that to work.
Well, hopefully it works. You can watch it fail live on stream.
Yeah, I haven't downloaded it yet. Where should? Oh wait, no. I was trying to look through DMs. It's not in DMs.
Yeah, it was it should be in the streamer text channel. Commentator.
Potentially dangerous download. Okay, let me download it anyways. Okay, so Opus Magnum mods, save, download the puzzles as well.
I think you'll need to restart the game to load the mod in.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that in a bit. Let me load in the puzzles first as well. So that's in non-Steam user, custom, and you didn't solve them. You didn't send a solution to these though, did you? I have to make a solution on stream.
Well, you don't have to make a working solution. And
Okay.
also one of them is really easy to solve by just cheating.
By cheating, okay.
Yeah, because so what this is, dear viewers, is I have a beta release for computation mod. It's still got some bugs and glitches and stuff. It's not as polished as it would be if I was working on this a little more seriously, but I wanted to have this available for all of the competitors so that they could be familiar, get more practice with computation before week 9, because I've seen some people do computation practice, and I thought, it'd be swell if we had a mod that would let us actually do week 9's computation.
I'm assuming the fires are the ones that change.
Right. So that output changes, the single element inputs change.
I saw you post the half adder GIF and wasn't sure if you used some scaffolding mod to do it. But it's actually computation mod. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this isn't gonna... Yeah, it's gonna output.
It'll output once, maybe twice. Oh no! Did you restart the game?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Check. Oh, that's malformed. That's not.
Yeah,
Why
that
did it
doesn't
do
look
this?
right.
Because there should be an option there. It didn't load correctly. Why did it do that? Watch it fail live on stream. Maybe unpack it from the compressed file and then delete the compressed file.
Okay, I'll try that.
Start it.
And then restart the game again.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to find where that is. Yeah, this one. And open this. Drag that out to mods.
I'm also not certain. I also am not certain if there's some dependency issue. Not. Hopefully not. That would be extreme bug. Oh, another reason why this is kind of a beta release is that want people to test it out, not just so they have computation experience, but also it'd be nice to have some people help debug it. Maybe. I do know that there's a.
Game is not launching.
Oh no.
Yeah, I removed the folder and now it's launching. Oh well. Guess we
Oh.
couldn't get it to work on stream.
Damn it. Okay.
Maybe next time. You got 2 weeks
Maybe.
before that.
Maybe
Next. I'm gonna try. Well, I've got it should be ready. I don't know why it's not working.
You can try to work that out like after stream.
Yeah.
But
So soon in Quintessential, I'll be posting a post. I'll make a reference to it in the Opus Magnum channel, and yeah.
oh, by the
Have
way,
fun.
so this is also a mod since we're showcasing mods that Luna made.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's of the tournaments. I just happen to have it here because I never deleted it. It doesn't work properly though. It doesn't save your like solves. Unfortunately, you make a solve, you reload the game, it's gone. No more solve for you. But yeah, so that should be all this week's, and thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week. And yeah, see y'all.
See you next time.
Catch ya.